Hi everyone, how you doing? Thank you for coming to talk. I thought I would do a remote view. Yeah, I thought I would talk to you about some of what's been going on with the remote views and also with what we see happening in New York with Letitia James. I think the first thing I want to say is I want to talk a little bit about just the phenomenon of the profiling that I think the feds, when they were dealing with this individual, it's a really interesting profile that I experienced as someone who profiles people for a living. It's a very interesting. It's been a very interesting experience for me as a professional empath. So, but what I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of time has passed since we started this channel, and it's it's very sad in a way that you can go into to you can profile somebody 4 or 5 years. You get for example, when we got the hit from Robert Mueller, that there was a very specific, decided way that the government was going to handle Donald Trump. Send everything to New York, shut down that one criminal investigation, go after him in the civil court, send everything over to the IRS, then proceed to send everything over to additional criminal investigations in other states like Florida, which will also be linked up with FBI investigations into money laundering in Florida, et cetera, et cetera. So how it appears, what has happened at this point is that they gathered up a bunch of information about Trump. They sent it over to SDNY. They sent it to the DA, et cetera, et cetera. It appears when you go into the energy of Letitia James that some kind of a deal was struck which closed one investigation in order to get cooperation of people that may have been charged with more serious crimes. So what they're saying here, and to be specific, is that more than likely one of the cases, or the case that they didn't go after before, was shut down because of some kind of deal or cooperation that may have been made with Kushner and Ivanka. So they were interviewing her, the feds were interviewing her when she was going into New York, et cetera, et cetera. They closed that case, even though they had an amazing amount of evidence. Nobody could figure out why. I think somebody flipped. I think Ivanka was one of the people that flipped. And in exchange for whatever deal she got, she's going to be hit with all the IRS information and everything else. But she is trying to evade a jail sentence. And so she flips. So she and Trump, for the time being, don't go to prison. And instead, her plea deal, she accepts whatever is going to come down on this civil case. But she also had to testify and give evidence about crimes, because we went into the remote about, she had to show stuff that had been going on in other places like Panama, how she had scammed. She basically has to testify, I'm sure she already has to some extent, about how some of these crimes were committed. So in that sense, she cuts a deal. They don't go to prison right away. It turns into a civil case. He gets charged with the civil case. And just like Robert Mueller said, they go in and they send everything to the IRS, which has now happened. And it starts to blow up in different ways, too. It's going to blow up in Florida, of course, but we're also seeing the people that propped him up and were doing business with him in D.C. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Basically, the feeling I get as Letitia James is that you can't always get what you want in life. And even though people don't want to make these kinds of deals, like the deal that obviously Ivanka Trump made in order to, and probably also the tax man made some deals, in the end, it doesn't matter, because he loses everything. And I think the other takeaway as a profiler, somebody who profiles, is that people with this type of deep-seated mental health issue don't change. They don't change. And so you can give a remote view about what Moeller said, this is how we plan on addressing this particular individual. And because of the nature of, I guess, this person's issues or crimes that were committed, the reason why we were able to follow the trajectory is not because we fortune tell. We do not do that with HCRV. The reason we were able to see it is because, first off, because many of the crimes had already been committed, but also because when we profiled each individual with very little deviation, did they change from what their original intention was. And so we stand here, 2.5 weeks later, as the feds are beginning to show their hands, and there is a sense of disappointment that that's all there is, that nobody learns, and that it's unfolding this way, not because we can read the future, but because, unfortunately, certain people's behaviors are predictable. And we can read the future. No, just kidding. We just read people's minds. Love and light to you all. Thanks for watching, and be well.